Hey everybody, just wanted to make a quick little video about living mulches, chop and drop, that type of thing. And one thing that made me think about this was here, some clover. It's that dead looking stuff there. It was in the way. I pulled it up and threw it down on some soil that looked a little bit bare. So it does make a nice mulch. It will help conserve moisture. That's really all it's going to do. Yes, clover is full of nitrogen, but when I do that, whatever was there is just going to be lost to the atmosphere mostly. So it does, it conserves some moisture. That's about all. If I really want to feed my soil, which is one of the main things I would like to do with all this clover that's volunteered all over the garden, is the best way to do that is to bring out my shears, or you can use a lawnmower if you do that sort of thing, and just chop it down, shear it off. Because what happens then is the roots suddenly don't have this mass of green growth above ground to support them, and you get some root dieback. And that's fine. You're not going to kill the plant. Clover is super tough. I know it's tough because it just kind of moved in here. It moved in areas where I just walk on it constantly. It's in my paths. It's super tough plant, nitrogen fixer. So when those roots die back, get some nice, almost like underground instant compost. And that can help feed the plants whose roots happen to be growing nearby. And that's good. That's what you want. And it makes a lot of sense if you think about how pastures work or grasslands work and how they sequester carbon. What happens is some grass or forb-eating animals come along and munch on the greenery growing there. All of a sudden the roots of those plants don't have all the above ground leaves to photosynthesize anymore. You get the root dieback, and some of that is not necessarily reused. As the process continues, you get a permanent buildup of stable carbon, and that's how the grasslands of the American Middle West and everywhere else in the world, as far as I know, came about with the huge amounts of topsoil that built up there. So when you're thinking about pulling weeds, weeding, chop and drop, cutting things back, it's a good thing to keep in mind. Sometimes I do pull up my clover because it just gets out of control, and it's in the way, even though, yeah, over here it's growing around my strawberries. Eventually, especially if you have low-growing plants, it's just in the way. It's taking up space. So I need to get rid of some of it, just to give my plants a little edge on it. It works with all sorts of different plants. For example, way up there on the hill, I have an apple tree that died, and I noticed that pawpaws were coming in all around the base of it. Well, this year those pawpaws have gone absolutely crazy. They are huge and healthy. I mean, they're over 6 feet tall already. And I am assuming, and I think it's pretty safe to assume, that they're exploiting that organic matter and that space that those apple roots opened up in the clay soil. There's food for them there, there's space, and water infiltrates easily there, and they're taking advantage of that. So it's really easy to just notice and think about all the things that are happening above the ground. But we really need to think about what's going on underground too, because it is incredibly important. And if you think about it and understand it, you're going to have a much more successful garden.